You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Another episode of the Red Moon Podcast, live every single Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, all across social media and across the world. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And if only the people knew what we were talking about
What
before.
people don't know is that they don't know what I don't know.
They have no idea what we were talking about
They
before
know.
the show.
They might.
It's probably better they don't.
They don't.
I'll tell them.
It's reserved for that podcast.
I'll tell them right now.
Don't you dare speak it.
Jubies. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
Nobody knows.
Nobody
what that
knows.
is. They don't need to know.
It's from Avatar.
What'd you do?
Eat your eyes for jujubes.
Love it. Love it.
I don't know. It's like after The Way of Water.
Yeah.
I've kind of come to somewhat respect James Cameron and give him some newfound love.
Oh.
And I have to admit, that line will live in infamy. And I can forever say, you know what? Maybe he knew what he was doing when he wrote that.
Pandora.
Chew you up and shit you out.
Avatar 1 is still a terrible movie.
Oh.
Such a sign of its times. And I wouldn't even say that.
Hey.
It was terrible when it came out.
I have grown to
Just a visual
respect.
feast.
I don't even can't think of the actor's name, but I like him now. I didn't like him in
yeah.
Avatar 1.
Not Stephen Lang.
Yeah,
Lang.
yeah,
Okay,
I like
okay,
him,
yeah, Stephen Lang.
I mean, he
okay.
was terrible in Avatar and Terra Nova, but everything else I've seen him in, he's been
Yeah,
fine.
Terra
So
Nova.
apparently those were just tooth projects that he just, I don't know.
I saw some clip on Facebook of like a movie with him where he like chains up a girl in the basement or something and is trying to get her pregnant.
It's like an indie. Are you talking about an indie flick that he was
Yeah.
in? Yeah, I actually heard it
scared
was
the
pretty
crap
good.
out of me.
Yeah,
the
he's a
scene
good
that I
actor.
saw.
I always thought he was a terrible actor because of Avatar and Terra Nova, but then
I think it's Don't Breathe.
Don't Breathe's a good one. Was that? I didn't know if that was because there's two of those. That's where he's blind. I didn't remember if that was where he had someone chained up because a bunch of teens break into his house in the first one. And
Oh,
try
maybe
to mess
not.
With him.
Maybe not. No, he wasn't blind.
He's
He was
like
trying
an
to-
old. I forget if he was like a
He was
war
like,
vet.
"You're young, you're strong, you'll make
Okay.
a good mother," and he was trying to get her
Ooh,
pregnant.
yeah.
Like, and
I
he
wanted
was
to look that one up.
He had a friggin' turkey baster with stuff in it, and he was about to put it in her.
No
Yes,
way.
it scared the crap out of me in this trailer. I
A
saw.
little departure from what I'm
Insemination.
used to seeing from
Yes.
Stephen Lang. Wow.
It was, and his acting in it was good.
He
It was, like,
he voiced
scaring me.
Old Man Hawkeye in that Marvel podcast I listened to, and he was phenomenal.
I mean, I'll say this. I think it's kind of James Cameron's...
direction has a part to play.
well, yeah, but I think Stephen Lang is to James Cameron as Ron Perlman is to Guillermo del Toro.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, maybe, and you would say, well, but he wasn't in Terminator or he wasn't in other movies that James Cameron. But
Ron Perlman's really only worked with. I mean, he has a little bit now, more so. But
Ron
originally-
Perlman, I think, was on the up and up. But then I don't know. It was like after Hellboy, I'm like, other than just being in
he was
Guillermo
in
del
Sons
Toro.
of Anarchy, but
Oh, did he play a big role in that?
I don't know how much because I haven't seen it. But I know he was a big role at for a time. I don't know
Okay.
how long he was in the show.
But it's just funny because I'm like, directors get their favorites, and you could say,
Yeah.
well, James Cameron hasn't worked with Stephen Lang that much, only 2 movies. I'm like, but that's been the last 20 years of his career. So it's and again,
he liked
what do
him
we know
enough to bring
Stephen
him
Lang
back.
from?
He didn't have to bring him back. He killed the character off. He could have just been like, you know
True.
what? But he liked him enough that he did. So
And I'll be honest with you, I stand corrected on The Way of Water, but I was all about the fact that James Cameron was going to butcher that, and especially hearing he was coming back. He redeemed himself. The movie's a good movie. It's on Max now. You can go watch Avatar if you haven't, because obviously that was the big movie last year that beat the box office. This year, Barbie, it took the top spot and beat out Super Mario Brothers. It is expected to beat it this week.
Yeah.
To be worldwide the best film of the year highest grossing.
Well,
or I'm sorry, highest grossing in North America already.
Yeah.
It already taken that spot, but worldwide it's going to take it this week.
And it's also now Warner Brothers' highest grossing film.
Which is crazy.
Because it was previously Harry Potter.
But beat out Deathly Hallows Part 2, and before that I think it was Dark Knight.
Yeah, Dark Knight. And then I think
that.
Dark Knight was number 2 after Deathly Hallows Part 2 came out. But now they've all
No, there
dropped
was
out.
another one. It was before I sent the tweet, and I can't remember what the other one was.
I mean, I can pull up the article if you'd like.
yeah, if you don't mind, because I thought
I got the link right in front of me.
Pull it up.
Do you?
I mean, it's...
Do you? You got the link
it's
right
working
there?
on it. This iPad is... It's sometimes
aging.
a little sluggish.
Maybe it's
Let's
time
see.
to,
Greta Gerwig's Barbie. There's no end to Barbie's magic tricks. That's kind of a terrible line. I don't know who wrote this article.
Awful. What does that even mean?
It's from the article. Let's see.
There's no end.
I'm trying to find the tweet. There it is. It was Aquaman. Aquaman was
yeah.
their 1.14.
Yes, Aquaman.
Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2 was 1.34. And then, of course, now Barbie's 1.4 billion makes it the highest grossing Warner Brothers
So
film.
was it Harry Potter, Aquaman, then The Dark Knight until Barbie came along?
Quite possibly.
Okay. I mean,
I know that it...
I know it's not a
that
big deal at this point because Barbie's
it
beat 'em all.
beating Dark Knight was a huge...
Yeah.
Just because Oppenheimer being out right now, it has now, I think, crossed over and beat... It hasn't beat Dark Knight because Dark Knight was over $1 billion. But Oppenheimer's at like 700...
It's doing phenomenal.
It's insane. It's crazy. I was not expecting that. And for a rated R flick, I mean, and we liked it. I know you all praised it.
We liked it more than you did, but still.
me. But I'm still very shocked. I mean, that's kind of the weird thing this year so far. And I'm this is a little bit of an icebreaker, so it's not one of our headlines. We're going to be talking about DC and some old James Gunn tweets resurfacing. But it is weird that last year, I would definitely say that Top Gun Maverick, Avatar: The Way of Water, two highest grossing films of that year. They were great movies. Would definitely watch them again. Recommend them. This year, Barbie and Oppenheimer being up there, I'm just like, for it to be the whole Barbenheimer,
huge
shindig.
phenomenon.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I would not. They're not movies I typically will say, hey, revisit these.
I
would not.
agree. That's not. I mean, I will revisit Oppenheimer, but it's not. It's one I would revisit not lightly, like Schindler's List. Like I like Schindler's List every now and then. I want to revisit it, and I like Schindler's List better than Oppenheimer. I'm just
You
saying
don't like
that.
popping popcorn and saying, let's watch.
Yeah, I'm just like I'm not like let's
concentration camps.
Yeah,
of
let's
World War
just
II.
all sit down and have a good time. Family's
Yeah.
over. We're gonna watch Schindler's List. Like I mean,
Oppenheimer.
great. Yeah, Poppenheimer. Get your Orville Redenbacher or the Orville Poppenheimer.
Your Orville Poppenheimer. Honestly, that's genius. Like
Orville
if,
Poppenheimer?
If they don't do that, they should do that.
And
And,
it
then
should have
sell
like
you
a
a
little,
copy
like,
of the 4K
And
version.
they should have a bucket that's like shaped like the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
Let's offend the Japs even more.
I mean,
why not?
I
They're
love-
already offended.
I loved so much. Like, no, I mean, I understand, like, but at the same time, it's like when they're like, "How would you like it if they made the memes of 9/11?" And it's like, we think that's hilarious. Have you met Americans?
Yeah, it's like
we've
you
been
don't
making
realize
fun of-
how freaking dark humor we are. That's like
They
yeah,
had, like
that's
that
not,
Barbie of like Osama bin Laden holding up Barbie or whatever, and I'm just like, that's funny.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you could try to make fun of it all you want, but our
They had,
morbid
like-
humor just
they had
goes right
the-
along with it.
Yeah,
But we did see another movie this week.
we did.
It
Good
actually edged out Barbie at the weekend box office. Barely,
movie. Barely.
but it did hang on to claim the top number 1 spot. It was
They were
probably
neck and
not
neck.
the most visited. I will say I'm wondering because the totals were not super.
Mm-hmm.
Came in at about 17.3.5 million,
Yeah.
somewhere
Yeah.
around there. And yeah, that's not stellar, especially for a new release. However, considering that it was Cinema Week, National Cinema Week, and there was a huge slew of theaters doing $4 tickets,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that cuts into the price of the total that obviously it granted for the millions of dollars that it made.
Could be, and I mean, it's also it's funny because even movies that have done terribly, I mentioned I think in the review that we're going to hear how even Indiana Jones and Haunted Mansion saw less of a decrease in viewers this week over the previous week just because it was $4 cinema day. So
Yeah.
people went out and saw stuff that they're like, nobody wanted to go pay a bunch of money to see Haunted Mansion, but for $4, yeah, let's take it.
why not?
I guess it's worth it.
I
then.
mean,
Why not?
But the big one is, of course, Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
Based on the Sony blockbuster game. Everybody, I think even us here included, were a little doubtful when we first heard this being the next project after Uncharted, and even after the acclaimed Last of Us series on Max. or HBO. But
It's Max now, yeah.
It launched on HBO. It
did.
aired on HBO and then went to Max.
That's true.
It's so. Just say HBO. That's all I'm going to call it. They should have just called it that anyway.
I know.
But no, they we were a little skeptical, and then of course trailers dropped. We found out what it was based on. It's surrounding a true story of this kid and his journey of playing the game and winning a contest. Let's just say, for all intents and purposes, it was definitely not something that I was expecting to enjoy. And, I guess maybe we should just let our review
Jump into it.
Listen to the review.
Here is our review of Gran Turismo.
This past Sunday saw many theaters nationwide celebrating National Cinema Day with $4 tickets all day long. With Hollywood in a downward spiral, the day itself proved a massive success, as with multiple movies out that people actually want to see and cheap prices, audiences actually showed up to the theater. With a close box office race between new release Gran Turismo and Barbie, every major release in theaters saw a massive uptick in viewers, with even Disney flops Haunted Mansion and Indiana Jones garnering a smaller drop in viewers than previous weeks. Neck and neck with Barbie, Gran Turismo, PlayStation Productions' second theatrical film based on one of their games, may not have had a roaring release, but for a film with a more niche audience, it has made a respectable sum, having garnered $53 million worldwide in its opening week against a $60 million budget. Directed by Neil Blomkamp, more known for his dystopian sci-fi outings like District 9 and Elysium, from a screenplay written by American Sniper scribe Jason Hall, and co-writer of Creed 3 Zach Balan. The film has a lot of underrated talent, fitting for a film that could be one of the more underrated gems to come out this year. With mixed reviews so far, the film has fared much better with audiences, based not just on Sony's video game IP, but the true story of Jan Mardenborough, portrayed in the film by Archie Madekwe, who went from an avid fan of racing game and simulator Gran Turismo to professional racing driver thanks to the GT Academy contest held by Nissan in 2011. Co-starring David Harbour and Orlando Bloom, Gran Turismo is a solid and entertaining sports biopic inspired by a video game. A mouthful that in and of itself is impressive. Gran Turismo doesn't reinvent the wheel and is often the stereotypical feel-good movie about a relatable Joe overcoming adversity to accomplish his dream. As a biopic, it's fairly matter-of-fact, encompassing a large swath of Mardenborough's career up to his placing at Le Mans. The film does take liberties with true events, making up Harbour and Bloom's characters wholesale, though they are based on real-life counterparts. The characters in the film are fictional. Also, the timeline of certain events has been altered or rearranged, with the movie even stirring up some controversy with its depiction of Mardenborough's accident at Nürburgring. While the merging of timelines is partially the reason Harbour and Bloom's characters are fictional, as their real-life counterparts were not present during all the events depicted, I don't feel their inclusion nor the reshaping of the timelines are necessarily disingenuous, nor ruin the movie. Other weak points include Mardenborough's relationship with his family and love interest. As so much is packed in the film and its main focus does stay almost entirely on Mardenborough's rise through the GT Academy and racing world, this too is understandable, if not still a regrettable weakness in the script. Overall though, the main focus on Mardenborough, the cars, and the races are fantastic, and logical considering the movie is called Gran Turismo. With tons of homages and respect paid to so many aspects of the game, its creator, Nissan, and Mardenborough, there is a lot of moving parts, but they come together like a well-oiled machine. No, Gran Turismo doesn't reinvent the wheel. It's a mostly lighthearted film with a feel-good message about perseverance and determination, but that's also its main draw. Its lack of standard Hollywood cynicism is refreshing. It doesn't have any nefarious agenda or political messages. It's straightforward, sure, but it delivers exactly what you want from a film about cars and racing, while being true to the Gran Turismo brand. I give Gran Turismo 3 out of 4 stars.
That's right, 3, not 3.25. 3 out of 4 stars for Gran Turismo.
Neil,
Neil Bogg
We
over
don't
there.
do quarter ratings.
He's trying. He's trying. Him and
He's
Jacob.
trying to impress Jacob.
Them and their
Yes.
evilness. I don't know what they're doing.
No, I liked it. I
Conspiring
liked the
against
movie.
us.
Yep, they are.
It was good.
It was good.
And you know, for it not making a ton at the box office, it has almost made its entire budget back in opening weekend.
Which is
I think
awesome.
I think it was only like $5 million short of its budget, so I think it'll be fine. I mean, it may not be a massive like earning film, but
Wasn't
it's going
Uncharted in the same boat?
I think so. And I mean, it makes sense, especially when you have people who distrust video game movies anyways, because until recently, or really, I guess, starting with Sonic and then Mario and PlayStation Productions, you didn't have good movies based on games. Really, it's just been the last 2 to 3 years that's actually we've gotten good movies based on games.
Well, not only that,
but it's also niche. It's very niche.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but Sony's kind of working against themselves in the sense that a lot of these IPs are already popular because the games are so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're already having to compete with a game that, if you're a gamer, you'd almost prefer in some cases to play the game than to
Yeah.
watch it because the movies and the story and the gameplay
Yeah.
itself are so good.
But that is why I liked what they did with this. Because, I mean, obviously, there's not really a story to Gran Turismo. I mean, you do have where you go through the career to race and you work on the cars, you build your cars. And, I mean, it really is truly a simulator for car fanatics, definitely. And I think that's definitely something that they tried to stay true to in this, is how much this is about the love of racing and cars. And I mean, I do have a nice blend. Sean mentioned when we came out of the theater how it's not just that. Of course, they go over Ian Martinborough's career, but you have a little bit of history with the creator of Gran Turismo,
Yes.
and then you have Nissan, and then you have
the way it opens up with Polyphony Digital
Yeah,
is
yeah.
fantastic.
I like that.
To just showcase, hey, we're not going to try to hide the fact that this is based on a game and what
Yep.
this is about. Like, no, but we're also going to show you the love and care
Yeah.
that goes into creating
Well,
this game.
it showed the community of
Yes.
gamers too. That was another side of the story that I liked, was seeing. I had no idea like that. I thought that was a game that you played at home. I didn't know there were places that you could go that had the racing chairs set up for you to just play Gran Turismo. Like, I thought that was
awesome,
really
yeah.
cool that there's a community
Probably
like that.
more so in the UK than there is here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was actually, when we went to Gatlinburg, there's a place there that has like exotic cars.
Cool.
And they had a racing simulator, and I'd be willing to bet that that's what it is. I guarantee
could
you
be.
They would
it's
have
probably
to
something
have
like that.
there.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, just even like the authenticity of him being a gamer. We mentioned like some of the soundtrack with Kenny G and Enya.
Yeah.
It's like
That was hilarious.
it was spot on and hilarious, but it's true. Like he's like, even the real live Martinborough said he does listen to Kenny G before like every race, and it's like that's a gamer right there. Like that's what I knew. It's like, this isn't just
That's a
some
nerd.
Yeah, there's things that are of course dramatized for the movie, of
Yeah.
course, but it was fairly true. I know there's been some gripes about how certain events didn't happen in the same order that they make out in the movie and things like that. But to
Well, look,
me,
we've talked about this before with other realistic depictions, or when you base something on a true story. There's always liberties taken. It depends on what those liberties are,
Yeah.
and to what degree. And in this case, when you talk about the Enya and the Kenny G being added, I told you all when we walked out of the theater, I said that was one element of the movie that no doubt, if this was a fake story just made up, they wouldn't have added a detail like that,
no.
because it would have seemed too cheesy, or it would have seemed too off the wall. But the fact that they played it into the movie, and it just, they fit it in there as a character development scene, it added more of a human nature aspect to it that made it seem grounded and real. And again, for Neil Blomkamp of all people, who just literally, I mean, District 9, Elysium, and
Chappie.
And honestly, District 9 is the only one of those three I would even say is worth watch. For him to just come back out of the gates with this, it's not perfect by any means, but it was definitely like, wow, all right, this is definitely on par with what I want to see from PlayStation Studios.
That's a movie that like made me want to go play the game, which
Yeah.
I think is, to me, it's like, okay, I watched The Last of Us. It made me want to play the game because the show is so bad. I was just like, I need to do this justice and actually play the game because it's better. But Gran Turismo, the movie was so good that it hyped me to go back. I hadn't touched the game. I bought it, and then another game came out, and I started playing that, and I haven't touched Gran Turismo 7 in, I mean, it's probably been almost a year. Well, no, about a month after it came out. And it made me immediately want to go home and update the
Fire
game
it
and
up,
get ready to start playing it again. So it's just
and you have to believe like that. No doubt they're expecting some kind of uptick.
Oh, yeah,
in
yeah.
sales after these
Oh,
launch.
Uncharted saw an uptick after its
Yeah.
movie, so I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Gran Turismo get an uptick in
it's
sales.
kind of like even if the movie's good, there's an uptick in sales. If the movie's bad, there's an uptick in sales. Because people want to go play.
Yeah.
Good, they want to play
Go
it.
play.
Yeah,
Fair point.
One thing that surprised me doing the review, because I mean, the people who did the screenplay is the guy that did American Sniper and then one of the co-writers of Creed 3. So I was like, oh, that's interesting too. I just felt like there was a lot of kind of underrated talent that went into this movie. And like, again, it's not like I wouldn't say this movie's as good as American Sniper or Creed 3, but it is a solid and great. Like I liked it. I gave it 3 stars. Minor gripes being maybe some of like we talked about like with his parents and even his girlfriend.
They were
Yeah.
just kind of added fodder. I mean, they're used to add again an emotional element
Yeah.
that it lands in certain parts. Could have landed a little bit better. It seemed a little bit forced towards the end. The ending scene with his father really got me, but even leading up to that, I just wish there would have been a little bit more of an impact in showing that they were still involved in his life. And yeah, while they were saying, hey, this is a dream you're chasing, but we're not fully on board, they show enough scenes to show that like they weren't abandoning him.
Yeah.
They weren't trying to
Right,
say,
yeah.
hope he fails. But there just wasn't enough for me. I think of Rudy,
Yeah.
and Rudy's a great film of just showing that triumph of overcoming, setting your heart's content on what your goal is and going after it, and how it shows the deeply woven ties he has with his family in that film.
Yep.
And there's just little elements here and there that I think they could have added. And I agree with you. It's like maybe even somewhat omit the romance, because I know you feel like you need to throw it in there to add that flavor.
Yeah.
Didn't really need it. It could have been just really about the help he got from his family, even from the teammates who were in the academy himself, and then really ultimately about his, succession into this professional world of racing. But no, overall I agree. I mean, 3 out of 4 stars. I thought it was something not expected, so lowered expectations helped. But also when you get in there and you realize it is just one of those kind of good old-fashioned overcoming the odds type of films, it's great.
Well, it is a more of a inspirational type feel with a feel good ending. It's not cynical. I mentioned that in the review. Like a lot of movies nowadays, I think everything is so cynical, and so you should feel bad about yourself because you probably oppressed this person over here. And I'm just
Always a victim element.
Yeah.
and I'm
always.
just like everything is just so cynical and just like the world's awful. And when looking at the movies that have done the best in the last couple of years, Top Gun, Mario, Avatar, I feel like the movies that, not even just financially, just the ones that audience, because critics were lukewarm to this movie. Critics are all over the place. And I think it's got like a 60% with critics. But audiences are loving it. And it's like when you look at the movies audiences like best this year, it's the ones that are upbeat, that aren't beating them over the head with this, feel horrible about yourself.
Not
Except for
humanity's-
Barbie.
Humanity's terrible.
True.
It's like you people want to go be entertained and actually like get away from all of the sadness and the
I know.
depressing crap going on in the world.
It also didn't have any political lean. Like it was a pretty straightforward movie.
Yeah.
It didn't have this agenda, like a political agenda to shove down your throat in every sentence of dialogue. It was a very good movie. And again, you talk about Top Gun Maverick. That's why that was such a good movie. The acting, everything, the action, but it was just it's like, let us just be entertained. Like, don't try to force feed us some garbage that we don't care about. I came to see a movie. I didn't come to be preached
Well,
at.
and again, it goes back to what we've constantly talked about over the course of the last several years when wokeness has invaded Hollywood. It's like it is the stories that center on the human nature element and the one of connecting us all in common threads and themes that we can all connect with across cultures. I mean, that's the thing, too, is loving the fact that even this is primarily a movie about a Brit who takes on this challenge and it succeeds. But then when he gets to GT Academy, there's all these different ethnicities and different cultures that are clashing and coming together to prove their excellence.
Yep.
And of course, it's like it shows you a healthy competition that, yeah, of course, they've got a little bit of sourness amongst themselves. But then I love that at the end of the movie, you get that switch of camaraderie to come back. And it's like, no. Now we as a team and being the outcast together in this new world are trying to actually help one another out and compete to make sure that we are taken seriously. And I think that is that human element that has been missing a lot, and that camaraderie you want to see in movies again, of bringing people together. There's one minor gripe I do have to point out with the film. Not the reason I gave it a whole star off. Mainly, there's some certain quality and production issues and pacing issues. I mean, they do cram a lot into this story. But there was also one thing that really irked me is this is a PG-13 film. Mm-hmm. There is some language. It's okay that there's some language. There are 2 F-bombs in it. If those 2 F-bombs were not in the film, and they could have easily been avoided, I could take my nieces and nephews to go see this, and I would love to have taken them to go see this. Yeah. This is one of those movies that, for me, should have easily been in that category. I think that was the only thing they missed with having a better opportunity to make this more widely available to more families who would be willing to forego some of the, other language. Yeah. To take their kids to, but those may have been the ones that pushed them over the limit.
Throughout the film, you've got, this is gonna really kick your ass, and you've got hell and stuff like. But then you get to the end of the movie, and they drop. Well, see, I didn't hear the first one. I just know muffled. About the. It was, but at the end of the movie, it's very clear when he's just like "F it," and I'm just like. Great. Now I can't take my son to see this.
And that was the thing.
Sawyer would love this movie.
It was literally in a point where you're like, you could have. It was easily avoidable, and you could have just said screw it, and it literally would have been just as fine.
Yeah, or to hell with it. Something. If you gotta. But yeah, that took it over the top, and I'm like, that's one of the things that it's kind of a plague with PG-13 movies.
Yes,
they're allowed. How many?
2 or 3.
They're allowed
now.
They're allowed 2, depending on how mild the other content is.
Right. But it's like, which is so many of those movies just they take advantage. It's like, oh well, if we can have 2 F words, we better put them somewhere.
Well, and that's the weird thing.
You don't have to.
It used to be 1, and even then, it was like that was pushing it. Yeah. Like I remember even just watching movies as a kid in the '90s, and my parents were just like, I remember my mom looking at Bobby, like may have to turn this off, and they'd let it slide. But it was just like, it's just one of those things where I'm like, come on. I mean, you're so close to having a movie. And I know a lot of people will be like,
based
you're
on
prudes.
A video game.
Right.
Kids play video games. So do big kids too.
Not only that, but
just like
a video game too that doesn't have that content.
No, right.
It's
The Last of Us. Yeah, you expect.
It's rated E for everyone.
Uncharted has cussing in it. So does the movie. Yeah, exactly.
But even Uncharted, it's like there's no F-bombs.
No,
in that movie.
I don't think there is.
And so I'm like, the fact that they had to throw that in there. Again, I'm just like, it didn't need to be there. It just knocked it off one. I know most parents are like, oh, you're prudes, and I don't care what my kids hear. Okay, that's fine.
No,
I'm in the camp that I know my brother and his family, my sister and her family, and I know they would have gladly allowed their kids to watch this, and they won't when I tell them, hey, there's 2 F-bombs in it. And
I'm trying to think of the other movie that recently did that to me. I went to see it and was like, this is one that I could watch with Sawyer.
Guardians dropped the F-bomb.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. And it's funny, but it's one of those things where Chris Pratt just
open the effing door.
And it's stupid. It's a throwaway line that you just
it's
use
funny,
for
but it doesn't.
Effect.
Yeah, that's all.
It adds nothing. Which we're gonna talk about.
I think the Meg 2 had a F word in it too. I think that might have been the most recent movie I've seen.
It wouldn't surprise me if
I thought the Meg, because we watched the Meg 1.
I thought the Meg was rated R anyways, but
no, it's PG-13.
You're right.
Yeah, for the violence. But see, I thought they threw an F-bomb in there somewhere towards the end.
I thought there was one in the first one too, but I don't really remember.
No.
But that would actually be, it's weird how I would say that's one movie I would almost expect it to be in.
Yeah, I honestly kind of expected it from those, but
I think it's mainly because in that
not
one.
Not that it's necessary in any movie, but
I wouldn't, it's not the kind of film that's advertised towards, I'm going to take my kid to go see that.
Yeah.
It's advertised towards teenagers, and that's fine. It's PG-13. But anyways, definitely 3 out of 4 stars. Gran Turismo, good film. If you get out this weekend, want to go see a movie, because there's really nothing coming out this weekend.
This whole month is a very lackluster month.
Well, we're dead. I mean, this is the end of the month. It's September Friday.
I mean, going into September, yeah.
September's just a dead month?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's
nothing?
There's not really anything great coming out all month long.
Huh. Well,
great.
I know. We maybe got some catching up to do.
Unless you want to watch My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3 or The Nun 2.
or third movie?
Or Saw 10, because all 3 of those come out this month.
Oh, God.
Saw 10
we did the last Saw movie, though.
We did?
We did.
Yeah,
Spiral.
we did the one with Chris Rock.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I
This
consider
one-
that Saw adjacent.
Yeah, that's Saw Jason.
Yeah.
This one doesn't follow that. It's a prequel where they brought the main actor back because they knew nobody liked the last one, so they got the original Jigsaw to come back and do a prequel.
It's like watching those damn Insidious movies, and they got to have that one old woman in it.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, they're trying to jump on the bandwagon before the whole October. I mean, we still got to come out with our October movie month.
Yeah.
We always
We
do
will.
2
We-
reviews.
I mean, we will.
We have a theme, but I will say we got to catch up on some old ones. Asteroid City's still out there. We
Yeah.
haven't reviewed that. We'll come up with a plan.
There's some. I mean, there's not that there's completely. I think the creator comes out at the end of September.
I know,
yes, it
we
does.
definitely want to watch that.
And then I know this weekend, I think the only thing big coming out is Equalizer 3.
Equalizer 3.
Yeah, I haven't seen.
I've never seen. Yeah, I've not seen the first two
Expendables
either.
4.
Is that coming out?
Yeah,
this-
that comes
It
out.
comes out
this
this
Oh,
upcoming
that's
month.
right.
And,
That's right.
And Fat Greek Wedding.
Yeah.
Outlaw Johnny Black. I don't know what that
The
one
Nun
is.
2 is one of
Paw
them.
Patrol.
Yeah.
And
there's
the
not.
Nun
There's
2.
not a.
Yeah,
great,
there is
Oh,
nothing.
and then the Haunting in Venice, Kenneth Branagh's
when is
latest
that one?
Hercule Poirot.
September 15th.
Yeah,
That's September 15th.
So like, and I mean, and I don't care about that either. I know some people might, but I just, for most part this month, I'm just like, man, it's a lame month.
It is. It is. And honestly, looking at the rest of the year, I'm not sure. I mean, I know we got Aquaman on the horizon as another
That's
big
about
release.
it because they pushed Dune back.
Well, yeah, Dune. That was the
We got
unfortunate
the
news from
Marvels to
last
look
week.
forward to.
Oh, joy!
I heard a rumor that it's
Funny that
it's
they're not
the,
pushing that back.
Well, what's even funnier is I heard that the rumor is that its runtime is the shortest Marvel film yet, and I'm like, makes sense. They're like they know nobody wants to watch it, so they gave it a short run. It's like 107 minutes.
It's going to be so nauseating. We're going to get you out of the theater quick.
It's like it's not even two full hours. Like they were saying, it's clocking in. They think it's going to clock in around 107 minutes. I'm like, wow,
107
yeah,
minutes.
that's an hour and 47 minutes. I'm like, that's a short movie, especially for Marvel.
Yeah, that actually.
What
is.
movie is this?
The Marvels.
Secret War? Oh, the Marvels.
Yeah, with
Oh, I don't
yeah.
want to see that. Do we have to see that?
We got to see it.
yeah, I'll see
Well,
it.
think about it. There's
Gosh.
nothing else coming out.
Yeah.
We got nothing on the slate because of the strike.
Hey, it'll be short at least. Hopefully this rumor's true and it's only like an hour and a half long. But
I may
we'll
have
see.
to eat my words from being on the podcast and have to finally get a Netflix subscription that I've been avoiding and start reviewing some of the films they drop on there.
Yeah, we might have to because with the strikes going on and them pushing stuff back and nothing. I mean,
It's just, yeah. I mean, and
the
here's
Marvels
thing.
and Aquaman.
I'm happy because in general, I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of TV that I haven't caught up on.
Yeah.
And I need to watch through all
need
the
to watch
Yellowstone
Twisted
stuff.
Metal.
Yeah,
Twisted
Twisted
Metal.
Metal's great.
I like Twisted.
I mean, again, another positively praised production.
PlayStation Productions is doing good.
Yeah.
They're doing well.
But let's get into our headlines. I want to talk
Okay.
about James Gunn and this DC universe. That's man, they just keep.
It's working! It's working!
No,
that's
that,
What
was
is
the,
it?
that was the wrong one.
I don't have. It's not
It
working.
should be I Hate You.
That's what a lot of fans are saying to James
Well, I don't
Gunn
hate
right
him
now.
yet because I don't really know what's coming. I just don't.
DC
I don't
fans.
trust. I don't hate the DCU since it doesn't quite exist yet. I just don't have faith in it.
So the fact is that Gunn and his buddy Peter Safran,
Yeah,
the partners in crime over there, heading up DC,
they know it. They know everything.
they have caught some flack. Well, at least Gunn has.
James Gunn has for no tweet again.
For
This one is not a tweet. This is like
Yeah.
some type of like when they do the Reddit like question things like, but still.
But
But
still,
it-
the last
well-
one was a 10-year-old tweet.
That's
This
right.
is a 10-year-old
And actually,
comment.
that's been part of the defense of this. Part of the defense is that, this is resurfaced from back when he was being edgy, and he was during that phase of trying to climb up the ladder, and so he was saying things that would get attention, and and look, there is part of me that, for the most part, because we're not on board with cancel culture unless it's canceling those who try to cancel other things. The fact of the matter is that there is supposed to be some grace that's afforded here. However, it does look pretty bad considering that you now are at the helm of this DC revival.
Yeah.
It has not taken place. The last 3 movies have been certified flops. There's no clear direction in which this franchise is going.
Yeah.
We don't even have your first movie coming until Superman Legacy in 2025. And yet these old tweets that resurface with Gunn's comments that specifically bring up a disdain for the DC universe before it even became a DC universe. long before, when the Marvel movies were just kind of ramping up and getting their start.
Well, even before that, it goes all the way back to Tim Burton's Batman
yeah,
in
he does talk about
1989.
I thought he actually badmouthed that movie
Worse
than Batman
He
Begins.
did,
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of read his what resurfaced. This was about 10 or 11 years ago. And it says in the first Facebook comment, Gunn wrote, Keaton did have a ridiculous voice. That said, I'd rather put up with a ridiculous voice than with horrible action sequences and acting barely worthy of the Batman TV show. B, I have no idea how you can think that the Burton Batman has more similarities with Moore's or Miller's Batman and Joker than Nolan's does. And listen, I have problems with both of Nolan's films, so this might have been prior
it was
to
before,
Dark Knight
yeah.
Rises.
Yeah.
I don't think either one is a classic, and I don't even really think Batman Begins is good. But they're far superior to this first Batman, or to the first Batman. I'm talking about Tim Burton's. C, none of your defense get by the fact that despite being the first cinematic dark take on Batman, so what? Stallone's Judge Dredd was the first dark take on Judge Dredd, and that was an awful movie. But basically going on to say that Burton's Planet of the Apes is genius in comparison to Batman,
Okay.
and that he pretty much just ridicules. I think that was actually the final tweet.
He goes on, like, he talks about Jack Nicholson's
Nicholson.
Joker as just Jack Torrance from The Shining with shitty clown makeup. F you, everyone
Yes.
involved with that travesty. Is what he
ripping
said.
apart Tim Burton's
and-
Batman.
Yeah.
And then apparently he also said that the Batman score is Danny Elfman's worst work, which a lot of people are just like, what the hell are you talking about? That's an iconic score.
Actually, it is, because I'll be honest with you. I mean, and that carried on. That theme carries on into the Joel Schumacher
Yeah.
Forever and Returns.
I mean-
Batman and Robin.
Well, even Batman the Animated Series borrows motifs from that theme because of how popular. Like, people recognize that as when you hear that, that's Batman.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
look, no doubt, I'm sure Gunn. I think part of why these resurfaced now is not just because now he's the head of DC and this is coming up. I think it's the mixed messaging we've gotten with ever since the departure of Henry Cavill. And the mixed bag of, oh no, Flashpoint is going to be such a huge reveal.
well, his promises that everything's going to be comic accurate and be done so much better, but it's like, but you're crapping over things that fans already love.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't pay respect to the path that was paved before you. I mean, I just recently watched the Tim Burton Batman film. And again, I hadn't seen it for years. I mean, I really remembered very little. Think it was like I was really young when I watched it.
And Batman Returns last year.
And it's
enjoyed every minute of
It's
it.
interesting because I will say, and I told my coworker this. I was telling him, I was like, it definitely is dated, no doubt.
Yeah.
It has a lot of very rough parts in terms of and it's funny because it won an Oscar for production design, and I look at it and I'm like, it's kind of a lot of, I mean, maybe some of the Gothic scenery from Gotham itself worked, but some of the interior design of like the her apartment, Vicky Vale's apartment, and even the newsroom that the guy works part of, and the newspaper, it just looks very. It looks like a set. It doesn't look good. But again, times change, production value change. This is coming from a time when comic movies were not really taken seriously. Like, yes, you had Superman. You had Christopher Reeve Superman. That was really it.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have anything, especially in the dark tone.
The first time Batman was taken seriously.
Right.
Because before that, all you had was Adam West.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, I mean, for that alone, mixing in the themes of, Tim Burton's Gothic style and the macabre that he kind of was his claim to fame and what gave him rise throughout his career. I enjoyed it. Definitely has rough edges. Definitely a sign of the times that it came out in. It obviously doesn't have the same, place in my heart as a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see
don't
it
have
when
that
I was a kid.
nostalgia
I don't have
factor.
that nostalgia.
Sure.
But to just rail against it. And again, I know this is an 11-year-old tweet, but to have railed against it then with no kind of reservation or respect for the past of what paved the way to where you are now, and then also to have that disdain even at the time that Nolan's films were popular, who I still consider to be the iconic version of, I mean, again, the Dark Knight trilogy, to me, stands above the rest of superhero films in general. Yes, there's something to be said about Avengers and the Infinity War saga, and I enjoy that. But if I'm looking at movies that I can enjoy on a regular basis and that teach values that not only I think are inherent within Batman himself, but also are values that correspond to outside of comic book films, Nolan's trilogy is iconic and a masterpiece in that regard. And to me, it's more so the problem that I have with Gunn in terms of shooting from the hip, saying things that whether it's to get you street cred or not doesn't matter. It's that you're not taking with a grain of salt your comments before you speak them, and also it doesn't mean that you've changed in such a huge amount of time for you to be the head of DC, and now we're still seeing a resemblance of that same behavior with how it's being handled right now.
Not respecting what came before. Yeah. I think this is an instance of him being, like, the comic book guy in The Simpsons who's like, actually, like, I hate.
That was a great impression.
Yes,
It was great.
But I hate because like even Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, there's Lord of the Rings fans who act like those movies are terrible because they didn't incorporate this from the books. They didn't do that. And I hate when people get that nit because there's comic book fans that hate Nolan's Batman trilogy because they're not very comic book like in the sense of how fantastical they could be and how fantastical like elements of Batman are in the comics. They're more grounded in some ways they aren't, but in other ways they are. And it's funny when people get really mad and be like, well, in the comic, you got Killer Croc and this and that. And it's like, but that's not what Nolan was trying to do. It's like I hate that you can't separate the mediums and the artist and what they're trying to do, because I love Nolan's Batman movies. I love the comics. I understand the place for both of them. Even the comics have different spin, like when they do the different one-shots and different side stories.
Batman Beyond, I mean, like different animated series.
He mentions Mark Miller and I forget the other one he mentioned because they did have a much darker style. And Alan Moore. Yes, Alan Moore's Killing Joke. But those are great examples because not only were those very dark, but Batman Miller's The Dark Knight Returns is not exactly right within like the timeline of things. It is more of a side story when he's older and comes back bitter, and it's kind of a little bit of what Zack Snyder based his Batman on. And I'm like, those are supposed to be different, and fans will accept those in the comics. It's like, oh, this Batman's more jaded and brutal, and that's not how Batman normally is, but because it's a one-off comic, we'll accept it. But if a guy makes a movie about Batman that's different from the comics, but it's a good vision and it's still faithful to what Batman represents, it's just not exactly like the comics, well, now we got to act like, well, because he wasn't 100% spot-on faithful, and I feel like that's what James Gunn was doing here. Well, Burton's Batman is this, and in the comics it's not this. So when he now says, well, we're going to be 100% comic faithful, that actually terrifies me, because I'm like, to what extent? Because not everything in the comic can be put on film and make it believable in the sense that
I think we kind of saw that with two versions of whether it was Batman Returns with the Penguin and
that was great though.
No, I know, but I'm just saying,
I mean, not in a good way. When you see those penguins come out, with, that is fantastic.
That's
terrible,
my point,
but fantastic.
Penguins with rockets on their back.
Yeah.
And then you take Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin with Mr. Freeze and
look at
and Ivy.
what Marvel's
it's like,
doing now, where Marvel's just like, well, fans will accept anything, so we can have this gelatinous mess talking about his holes, and we can have, and it's like sometimes you can just be too bizarre. Like sometimes it's okay to be like, because even the comics aren't always that bat crap crazy. It's Marvel's just like, well, because sometimes we can do it, and we're just going to do it now in the movies.
Well, one of the things I want to know is what was James Gunn doing 11 years ago? Like, what? I mean,
he was honestly, it mentions in the article, he was more coming off the Trauma Express. He was doing trauma films.
Yeah, so
and
I'm
he
like,
was a nobody back
this is
then.
back. Yeah, well, I'm not trying to defend him, which I also have another. It says he's tweeting to @Sean. Is he tweeting to Sean Gunn, his brother?
Probably.
I was just wondering.
Maybe.
So I'm just like, not only was it, again, it's tweets, it's public, but he's having a conversation with his brother, and he's 11 years ago, he was not not on the pedestal that he's on now.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to give him a little bit of leeway because he's voicing an opinion about a movie that he didn't enjoy back then, and I'm like, I kind of feel like today, maybe in the position that he's in and being more public.
Oh, he'd be more diplomatic.
Yeah, he would, exactly. So I'm just like, you're taking something some guy said 11 years ago. It's his opinion. Like, grow up, let him have his opinion, and maybe his opinion has changed. We've sat here on this show and had opinions about movies, and then 2 years later, we've been like, that movie actually wasn't that bad. And it's like
Jupiter
Ascending. No, and
Terrible
Avatar.
movie.
It's like, Avatar's never going to be good. The second movie blew us away. So
Yeah,
it's
it
like
did. It did.
it's one of the things you got to eat your words. If he is willing to just do that and say, no, that I had these opinions, but I've watched them 20 times since then, and it's changed.
Well, and I'm not even asking for that, because then I would think it's even more disingenuous.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, but
I'm just saying.
my point.
I'm going to make something different.
I agree with you. Let him have his opinion, and yes, we've all been in situations where we've maybe spoken on. I mean, heck, we have hundreds of hours of podcast material where I'm sure you could pull a clip either out of context.
There's one episode for
sure. No comments. We're not bringing that up. But no, whether
Jubies.
that'll always live. But it's like where it could either be pulled out of context, or worse, even be something that you're just like, ooh, shouldn't have said it that way, or wish I would change my words. So no doubt, I agree. Let's afford him some grace there. I think why this is resurfacing and why it's becoming of question is because I think people are looking for that response from Gunn, because amidst the confusion that we've gotten from him with the current state of DC and the DCU and what he is proposing is the future of it, it's kind of like, hey, we don't know where you stand. You axed Henry Cavill, who was a fan favorite, but you're keeping Jason Momoa, Gal Gadot, even possibly Ezra Miller.
When you made the comments
Blue
about their
Beetle,
age and all that kind of
right.
stuff, and then you're backtracking on that.
You're making all of these justifications for choices that have been made, which we've seen no proof of and seen nothing but failures and flops, and yet we don't even know where you're headed and moving forward. So I think it is a little bit of this, okay, we're going to bring these comments back into the fold because we kind of want to know, based on your attitude back then and not knowing what you're feeling right now. And honestly, I'll be frank, having seen Guardians of the Galaxy, and I thought it was utter crap compared to what he's put out before. And I used to be one that was just like I was a Whedon fan when he kind of took the reins after the first Avengers, but even before that with Firefly and everything he's created, Dollhouse, like, the guy was good at creating things that made me like, okay, I'm intrigued at what he's going to do next.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gunn's been on a string of failures. Gunn, to me, has not... I mean, look, I know Peacemaker was a huge hit. I know a lot of people love Peacemaker. And I get creating that character arc of being somebody goofy but having a little bit more of a sentimental but with the goofy. I mean, that's right up Gunn's alley. But Suicide Squad wasn't great.
Good, no.
It was milquetoast at best.
It was better than the first.
Well, yeah,
Only-
we're gonna get to David Ayer.
Only because of Stallone and King Shark. That's the only reason.
It was only because
friends. Best part of that whole movie.
Look out, Shawnee. that first movie with the freaking croc guy.
Killer Croc.
Yes.
Yeah.
let's go down here. Let's go down here.
That was terrible.
Yeah, we're gonna get to David Ayer.
Okay.
Because really, it wasn't his fault. Hollywood broke him.
Yeah.
But no, I think a lot of fans are very eagerly anticipating what is coming from Gunn, but also with a feverish kind of hesitation.
Oh, yeah.
And no doubt they deserve to be kind of, because I know he's doing I think that's what irks people the most is if these comments are real from back in the past and you were unabashedly just honest with your opinion, and yet here you are on this platform and creating this whole new wave of DC. I mean, you are the head of the DCU now.
Yeah.
But yet you keep speaking about, go see Flash. You need to. It's a pivotal moment. And then it flops. And it turns out to not be such a pivotal moment.
Go see Blue Beetle. He'll
Go
be our
see
first
Blue
DCU.
Beetle.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now are you just the rep guy? Are you just the one that's getting out there beating the drum and we need to keep going to pump up your box office numbers so that you can fund whatever venture you have? Like, are you just the press junket personality that we have to expect from the corporate Gun? Is that what it is?
He's one of those voices that nerds and geeks, I mean us, that we trust.
Right.
Or we did.
We thought.
And yes,
we
it's
could.
like we can put this guy at the helm, and he's a guy that all of these comic nerds will listen to.
He's going to shoot us
so
straight.
If he says, go see this movie, they'll go see the movie. And I really think we fell for it. Honestly, I've never seen somebody come in and be so highly praised, and it was like as soon as it's like freaking George Lucas selling to Disney.
Yeah.
When that happened, Everybody, I listened to Nerd Roddick talk about this the other day. It was the hugest thing. It was like, thank God.
Yes.
Disney is going to make the best freaking Star Wars.
Because at that time, people still trusted Disney.
Yes, and look what we've gotten. And I think this is the same situation. He came in. I was super excited. I was like, oh, freaking James Gunn is going to be the head of DC. The ship is going to be righted in an instant. And here's what we got. And,
Right.
And we're not going to have anything to show for it for the next 3 years.
Well, that's the thing. They had every opportunity to make it something good. The problem is the continual failures that have been proof ever since, and it's the same with Gunn. It's like, honestly, it's not only been his directorial work in recent past, but yes, the fact that he has jumped on the bandwagon and made these brutal decisions, whether it's to get rid of Cavill, whether it's to pump up these flops and try to say, oh, no, they're still somewhat, important. You need to go support them and see them. But we don't know to what capacity they're going to actually take place in the future DCU events. But yet, that doesn't make me excited for Aquaman. That doesn't make me excited for I mean, I think I did look at the slate. I'm pretty sure the only things in development right now for the DCU, it's Aquaman coming out in December. Then we have Superman Legacy. I think it's a huge gap in 2025.
That's the
and
first
then the
DCU
next
movie.
Batman part. Or no, I'm take that back. There's two others. Batman Part 2 is in the works with
The Batman.
Part 2.
Okay.
And then also we do have Joker
2.
Yeah, I forget the Part 2, but I forget what it's
But
called.
as far as and those Folia do.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But part of those, because those aren't part of the DCU,
Right.
But as
They're
far
spin-offs.
as far as the DCU goes, like he gave us his lineup of what movies they're making, but none of them are, like, especially with the strikes, none of them are really in production. We know he's been writing or was writing Superman. I guess with the strikes going on, he can't do that now. But it's one of those things that we're gonna get Aquaman in December. And then after that, if Jason Momoa is still part of the DCU, when's the next time you're going to see him? Because it's going to be, like Sean said, 3 or 4 years before you see Superman. And then from there, you're going to assume that it's going to be a couple years. You're going to have Batman, whatever other movies he announced. And it's like, okay, so if you have another 3 to 4 years planned out for the DCU and Aquaman wasn't announced part of that, is it going to be another 10 years? Because at that point, Jason Momoa's going to come back when he's 6? I mean, I'm just
60.
saying. He's going to be 60-year-old Aquaman? I mean, I don't know. He's in his 40s, so I mean, 10 years wouldn't quite be 60, but still.
he could have some gray, long, flowing hair.
But I'm just like, it's like you talk about Henry Cavill's too old for the part, but it's like by the time we get to the DCU, like, what are these people a part of?
Yeah.
But you know what? They could turn back to their old ways.
That's right.
They could go back to the dark, grim DCU. The one
Embrace the darkness.
that David
Embrace
Ayer
it.
David Ayer so sought to be part of with the Zack Snyderverse. Yes, David Ayer says that Hollywood broke him with their cut of the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, they butchered his movie.
Just Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
The Suicide Squad was it's so annoying. It's so
I
freaking
know.
confusing.
It's just Suicide,
Because none of it connects. And like you were saying, the Batman is not the Batman we're going to get in the DCU. And Joker is
not
an
Joker for the
offshoot. And it's
DCU,
not
yeah.
even the Joker that's involved with the Batman. It's so confusing.
I know.
It's so annoying. But all in all, David Ayer basically is now fighting for his Snyder cut. He wants the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad.
Yes.
And look, I think his arguments
Some of
are
the stuff
somewhat valid.
Yeah, some of the stuff he says I agree with.
I think he basically came out and there was two we'll have it linked in the description below, the 2 articles. One is where he's kind of saying this is what I think DC needs to do to fix things, and another one was his ire for no pun intended, his ire towards Hollywood and ultimately the studio deciding what the cut was going to be of his film.
Yeah.
And that it was totally different than what he was working towards. He had a lot more gritty, more character-centric focus in his film and in his cut. And ultimately what it was Deadpool came out and changed the game with regard to rated R content and added it still had that MCU style comedy and it had a darker comedy. And immediately with that and then the flop that was Batman v Superman and already the harsh backlash on the Snyderverse at the time, basically they were saying this is what we want Suicide Squad to be.
Yeah.
And they've changed his entire he this is his opinion, this is what he's saying. His perspective is they changed the entire cut to be something completely different than what he wanted, and that he would love to see his cut. And apparently he has gotten word from Gunn that someday the Ayer cut will come out. The Ayer cut of Suicide Squad will come out.
I don't predict it's. I mean, maybe it'll be better. Like Zack Snyder's Justice League was better than the Justice League. I don't. I mean, I'll eat my because we have in the past. I'll eat my words if I'm wrong, but I just don't imagine it's going to be still a
But
great
that's the
movie.
thing is like, I mean, to me, and I'm still, I'm a Snyder guy. I still think the Snyder cut of the Justice League is only better because it's so much longer. Like because there's so much more added.
And it's definitely too long to
I
be a
don't
theatrical
necessarily
movie.
think that what was added was good, but it's like it didn't change. I mean, the original movie's still in there.
Right.
It's like it's not. You just added some content and edited in some.
Some context.
Yeah,
there is
yeah.
important context.
Yes, there is,
But not 4 hours worth.
It makes it better, but
You
it's
gave
not
exposition
like,
that should have been there all along.
I'm just like, so it's the Ayer cut's not going to be any different. It's like you're gonna, unless they completely changed, the movie. That's,
All I
don't
know is, and granted, he does say he regrets doing this, but this is the guy that made the decision to have Jared Leto with all the tattoos. Like he says, he regrets putting the damage tattoo on his forehead.
Yeah.
It's like that's the only part of that Joker you regret.
The least.
Was the damage tattoo?
Like,
was,
did you leave the tattoo and just take Jared Leto out?
That might already be better.
Like,
Yeah,
just pick another actor.
but I'm just
But part
I
of
don't
his
know.
claim in that is that now, granted, I agree. That whole aesthetic, is just messed up. But he claims that even the route he wanted to take, and granted, I don't know if that means script rewrites. He made it just sound like it was on the cutting room floor. But I agree. It's like I don't know of what version
Yeah.
you could have even presented with that type of Joker and thought that it was going to sell to the masses.
That was going to be
and
dark
it
and
was gonna-
serious.
It's
It's
like
like
I didn't get any of that at all.
I didn't think it was dark or serious to have this tatted up Joker with damage.
It's gonna hurt.
Yeah,
Really bad.
it's
Just like
I see that and I'm like, this is what like the
terrible.
This is what like the emo kids in high school would think is dark. It's like that's so dark and gritty.
Yes.
It's like no, it's
Yeah.
not. It's stupid.
It's like go listen to AFI now.
Yeah. He says there's damage on his forehead. Oh.
But no, I'm with you, Keith. I'll eat my words if the cut releases
And it's good,
and
but-
it's better, just like I did with the Snyder cut. But the Snyder cut did not change. I mean, it gave me leeway to say, yeah, okay, let Zack Snyder make the movie he wants.
Wanted to, yeah.
I'm fine with that. But there was still other cuts, whether it was Batman v Superman or the first Justice League. Or well, that was the Snyder cut we got.
The Batman v Superman director's
but
cut
man,
is
That one is better.
a little
as
better.
Well.
It
Yeah.
is okay.
Yeah.
I
See,
mean,
and I haven't seen that.
It's
one.
still not a great movie, but it is better.
But
And
it just makes it's apparently Warner Brothers and DC have a huge problem with sticking their nose in the directors.
Well, I was going
in
to
the
ask you.
filmmakers.
I mean, with the overarching point that Ayer's bringing up here, I mean, do you think it is? Because to me, it seems like it's two things. It seems like they were so quick to try to repeat or try to reach in and create the success that Marvel had with its MCU, and then obviously try to mimic and prepare, or basically have pre-planned or act like they had pre-planned, methods of their madness and laid out storylines for the overarching, DCU and what it was supposed to represent. And it's like, no, I don't think that's showcased at all. If anything, everybody knew it was rushed. They knew these films were being made to try to compete or catch up with Marvel, and it didn't pay off. But at the same time, I'm still sitting here thinking, was part of it them taking the creative vision from the directors themselves? Because that is part of what Ayer is bringing up with regard to going back to the darker, grittier. Like Snyder came in and said, I want to do the exact opposite. If we try to create and mimic the MCU, we're going to flop. It's already been done. They're succeeding at it.
You see
we
that
don't need to be them. We need to be the opposite of them.
right with Justice League when they brought in Whedon, that's what he did.
Yeah.
He brought his Marvel, his Avengers game,
But
and,
they
and put
wanted
it
him
in.
to.
I know.
That's why
But
they
that's
got
why
him.
that's why that movie was so, in my opinion, it was so bad, was because you had elements of Snyder,
Yep.
and then you had these
Yeah.
comical, goofy elements from Whedon, and they don't jive.
No.
And it's like only when you give him either Joss Whedon should have made the whole movie,
Right.
which wouldn't fit with the other two
Man of Steel or
Snyderverse
Batman v
movies,
Superman.
but or let Zack Snyder
Yeah.
just do what he was going to do, and that's why I think the
Well, it's-
Snyder cut's better.
It's interesting too because I mean, you think we were praising the fact that they called Whedon in. We thought, oh, good, he'll fix this right up.
Yeah.
And boy, did we eat our words when we saw that piece of junk.
Yeah.
Keith, it looked like you were about to say something.
No, I was just going to say that. For me, I do think Warner Brothers does have, and granted, even if they had let Zack Snyder do his full vision, because when you look at Batman v Superman, it needed his extended cut to be better. Justice League needed a 4-hour cut. It's like, I'm sorry, if you can't make
extended cut.
If you can't make a good movie in 2.5 hours, then there's a problem. Nobody's gonna sit in the theater for 4 hours.
No.
Like, you don't need. So in that regard, I understand Warner Brothers, but at the same time, this isn't the first time. Like, I mean, with him, with Ayer, heck, as far back as Peter Jackson with Lord of the Rings, the only difference is that he just didn't put up with it and he told them no. And he didn't have any more clout.
With the Hobbit, right?
No, the original Lord of the Rings, they were constantly on him about stuff, and he would just hang up on them and do what he wanted to do anyways.
But it is interesting because they were the ones who they had originally set out to put those movies, make them into 2 films, and they were going to cram the trilogy into 2 films, and it was New Line who won because they were just trying to pitch it and get it sold to a production company to make
Lord of the Rings probably would have been garbage if New Line didn't have Peter Jackson's back.
No, absolutely, and they were the ones that were like, aren't there 3 books? Shouldn't there be 3 films? And they were like, yeah. But then they had to go back and rework their scripts that they had already written. And thank God they were able to be given the freedom they were given. Because I think there is a moment, obviously, you want something to be successful. But the best way you can become successful sometimes is taking a step back from the producer role or the big studio exec role and saying, how do we create something that is timeless enough that it lasts beyond just a blip on the radar or a bump in the box office numbers? Because there is no doubt that as much as they are flops or they didn't succeed on the expectations that they wanted to at the Snyderverse, each of those films are successful financially. They did get butts in seats. It wasn't until the very end when you saw the Whedon-Snyder mishmash and that was the debacle of Justice League, and it flopped terribly. And I think at that point you saw the writing on the wall for what was going on with DC was not working. And I agree, Keith. It's like you have to have some kind of reins on the artistic, we just had Snyder's new movie Rebel Moon launch their trailer, and it's going to be launching on Netflix. I think they're going to do a smaller theatrical run.
When does that come out? That could be one we review.
Part 1's this December, Part 2's next December. So, but that was a big reveal in the trailer that there's Part 1 and Part 2.
Yeah, because you can't make a 2-hour movie.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's the thing. But it's so sad but so much of his artistic telling is through the visual perspective, which again, it's a visual medium, it's movies.
Yeah.
But it's through like production design and stylistic cinematography. But he really misses the mark. And I know people will say, well, you just don't like Snyder and you're not a fan of him. Yeah, it's an opinion of mine. I don't like his taste in terms of plot development and characters because I can watch another movie that, like Forrest Gump, that is 2.5 hours, and it's a huge epic adventure told in a 2.5 hour time period. And there's a lot more emotional elements and human interaction and connection. And what I get from those actors and those actresses and the characters they play, I get a lot more out of that than I do from a 4-hour cut of the
4-hour slow motion.
Well, then you just didn't you just didn't understand what Zack Snyder was doing. I've seen that argument from Snyder fans online. They're like, he has so much depth to his movies, and if you don't like him, it's just because you're too dumb to understand what he's doing. And
I'm not that kind of Snyder fan. No. I like the movies; they're cool. But
they got nice action.
That's right. I'm not like, oh yeah, he's the best filmmaker ever.
When Ezra Miller snatches that hot dog out of the air,
gosh,
that represents him fulfilling his wishes and dreams. I was like, okay, I guess, go for it.
That's so bad.
I gotta say, like I downloaded The Flash and I've watched it in 4K.
Yeah,
and man, the CGI is worse on
I'm
your
sure
TV
in 4K you see everything.
It's really bad.
But again,
so bad.
Somebody even I saw a tweet where somebody had said, quotes, Flash is the worst DC movie ever. And then they showed the scene, and they were being sarcastic because they showed the scene where he's in the market with his mom, slow motion, and it's the last time he gets to see her, and he just walks up and puts his face in her hand. And I'm just like, no, there is a way to do emotion right. And no doubt that movie had enough of heart in it that it made me care for the character. And that's one thing I just lack from all Snyder films, whether it's 300, because again, The story and the substance is in the visual style it's told. It's not in the character development, and that's just not his strong. That's not his strong point. I hate to say it. It's not Snyder's forte.
It's actually an aspect David Ayer mentioned that I do agree with, because he talked about how it's important to have both light and dark in a movie.
Yeah.
The symbol for drama, the mask, is a smiling mask and a frowning mask, because you have to have that wide range of emotions to connect with the characters. If everything's dark and brooding, if Superman hates being Superman, I'm like, damn, I don't want to watch this movie. He's supposed to be a symbol of hope, not this miserable, he's not Batman.
Right.
And at the same time, it's like, yeah, you do have to have the dark moments too, because otherwise, where's the adversity and the things that the heroes have to overcome? You want to see emotional moments between, we all praise the scene between him and Lois. That was actually a well done scene when he gets in the bathtub.
Yeah.
But those are very few and far between.
You know what's not? When freaking Kevin Costner is in the middle of a freaking tornado, trying to save a damn dog, and he comes to run it, and he goes,
No.
"What the hell?
It's like,
what the hell was that?"
Man runs faster than anybody can see him. He can't run over there, save you and the dog.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna know.
He's about as fast as the Flash.
Yeah.
A little bit slower.
He's
but
not
yeah.
as faster than the speed of light like the Flash, but he's pretty dang close.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just god awful.
Yeah, I
that was
agree.
terrible. And that's what I'm saying. There are things like that they miss incredibly. And I'm sorry, there were still cheesy moments in the Snyder cut.
Yeah.
I only watched it once, and I'm sorry, I don't remember every 4-hour part of that.
Yeah.
So
I remember the hot dog scene.
that was bad enough. And it was so good up until that.
Yes.
He looks right at that damn hot dog, and I'm like, what's going on?
I
here?
knew what was happening. I was like, he's gonna grab that hot dog for the dogs.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he does it, and I'm like,
Well, he puts it in his pocket. And
Ruined
you're just like,
it.
what is what's going
that
on?
stupid smile on his
Yeah.
face. I'm like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
But no, I look, if Ayer wants his cut and Gunn's willing to give it to him, you know what? Might as well. I say let's release the cut just like the Snyder cut. Maybe Ayer. I'm with him to a certain degree. There are definitely times, especially when you get into these expanded universes that every production studio is wanting to create. Mm-hmm. Look, we've seen the blessing and the curse of it with Kevin Feige in the MCU. Mm-hmm. We've seen what he was able to create with the Infinity Saga, something that was never done. And I think, again, when your back's against the wall and it's the time that the pressure is on, and you've got to think the most creatively you can, that's when the creative juices are flowing. That's when you're trying to pull things out of thin air, and you're trying to spontaneously come up with solutions that more than likely, it's when real work is done. That is the beauty of the Lord of the Rings payoff with those 3 films, is it was an incredible risk for New Line.
Yeah.
But the other thing was it was an incredible risk for Weta, for Peter Jackson, and for Wingnut Films.
Yep.
They were made. Nobody knew who they were.
No.
But the heart and the soul and the love and the attention to detail for the source material was there. And again, you hear it with David Ayer, you hear it with Zack Snyder, you hear it with James Gunn. There are fans of this material that they have the heart there.
Well, even Kevin Feige talks. Kevin
Feige.
Yeah, Kevin Feige talks about how much he loves the comics, but then it's like, then you let agendas get in the way. You don't stay true to the comics. You don't actually deliver on what 50 years of fans have grown to love or more. Marvel was established in the 60s, but was a company before then. I don't know the full length of how long.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things like you have years worth of material that people have loved. Superman, Batman, Captain America, Spider-Man, the X-Men. These are characters that have been generation to generation, the 80s, 90s, 2000s. It's like there's a reason people have liked them for that long. And to come in and kind of just slap fans in the face because it's like, well, now we know better. Let's not focus on the heroes you love. We just need to have more Captain Marvel and more and shoehorn all this other crap in. And it's like nobody wants that.
Or just have an endless cycle of building towards the next magnum opus. And it's like, but then it never comes.
Yeah, that's the issue that I'm having is it never comes. It's I have no idea where we're at with Marvel on the multiverse story or whatever it's what is the
They're building towards Secret Wars, but it's like,
yeah.
okay, we know that, but you've not showcased anything in the movies other than King's a threat.
Yeah.
Incursions are a thing that happened, and then Secret Wars, because all those things are elements that do happen in Secret Wars, but other than incursions being mentioned in Doctor Strange, you two have no idea what an incursion is, right?
No.
Okay, exactly.
Well, and all I know is that it's become, sadly, this like cannon fodder of we're going to churn out all of this content and we're just going to tease the next big reveal.
Yeah.
And it's always, in essence, to have someone come back to bring back the nostalgia of what you remembered you were even on this train, this train ride for in the first place. And the problem with that is that it's the nostalgia is not only wearing thin, but that was the whole point of having like a cohesive Infinity Saga.
Yeah.
Then it was supposed to be, let's pass the torch to the next generation. But then that next generation has not stuck. There's not been characters of like, significant importance and following other than these, cult followings that maybe some have built up.
Yeah.
But it's like there's not gotten anything that has really significantly not only landed, but also that has got me excited for what's next. And that was actually the excitement that I had for when Gunn received, to be at the helm of the DCU.
Yeah.
Is it was like, okay, now we maybe have a chance to see what's going to come from Gunn, this comic book nerd who has expressed on multiple occasions how invested he is. Marvel gave him a shot, but he's really a fan of DC. Okay, maybe this time we're going to get something that is on par or at least comparable to what the MCU was. Not an exact copy. We didn't want that. And even then, it was like, maybe this is a chance for us to kind of resurrect the idea of what a comic book movie is, simply because the MCU has now floundered for the last several years. And yet, here we are in the same kind of muddied water, and it just keeps bringing me back to I'm not looking forward to any of it. It's just kind of run its course in my mind.
In 2 years, Superman Legacy could be amazing. We don't know, but it's like up until then, the decisions that have been made thus far, it's like it doesn't give me a lot of confidence in Gunn.
The hard part is like people like us who are not only movie buffs and we go see out and we have a podcast and we'll do reviews, and there's other people who will just see what they're comic book nerds and they want to see what's coming out. The problem is that you're not attracting, nothing. You're only attracting the hardcore viewers. You're not attracting general audiences anymore. They're wearing thin and they're getting tired and they don't even know what's going on anymore, and they're not turning up for the next big adventure. I mean, that was kind of the issue with the trilogy. That was the failure of the Kathleen Kennedy episode 7, 8, and 9. Star Wars is a universal property beloved by everyone and remembered from their childhood. And yet they couldn't even take an inkling of, still as abysmal as they were, the heart and soul that had episode 1, 2, and 3 and what brought people back to the theater for those 3 films. And even with their minor problems, it's like you could still it has George Lucas all over those films.
Yeah.
Not for the great reasons either. But even still,
but their story was actually cohesive and added to the overall saga. Like, you could watch 1 through 6 and it all makes sense and it's one cohesive story, even if the first 3 are kind of goofy. But then you get to 7, 8, and 9, and it's no longer this cohesive 9-episode saga. It's 1 through 6, and then this other trilogy that's kind of doesn't fit really well.
And so the problem is that you do see, I guess, back to Ayer's point, where Hollywood can step in, looking at, again, the whole idea of it being successful in the first place and trying to make money off of it. We get your end goal, but there is a way to make more money, and that is by creating things that people actually want to see. And I mean, right now, he is hitting at the point of maybe it's more executive run. A lot of these decisions are either out of the hands of the original creators, or they're so hell-bent on trying to figure out how these movies tie in to not only one another, but also into the marketing of how to build the universe and into the toys that they're trying to sell and all of this extra merchandise that they're trying to push and shove down your throat just to make it that much more successful and make it a cultural icon. It's like, no, sometimes that part is well-intentioned from, not only the business perspective, but even the fan who wants to partake in that. But, again, every kid eventually eats enough junk food to where they get sick and they don't want any more. And that's kind of where we're at right now with comic book films, and it's a little disappointing. Of course, we have to keep seeing them, but as long as us and opinions like ours,
there you go. That's what I'm thinking about the Marvels. I'm just like, I don't want to see it, but like you said, we have to see it.
We gotta see it. We gotta give the people our opinion.
Yeah.
Because hey, who knows? Maybe we actually inform the masses enough to where they actually.
Maybe it'll be great.
They take what we say into consideration.
Really good movie. We'll be like, Marvel's back on track.
It could be, and who knows?
That'd be actually kind of funny because the first Captain Marvel movie, I think, is really the first instance of there being some concern, but then of course Endgame came out and was like,
Yeah.
no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they fixed her character.
Yeah.
They didn't have her in it.
Yeah.
That was the best thing about Endgame is like
It is
Captain
kinda-
Marvel is not in it.
I mean,
very much.
at
the very
She
end,
literally
yeah.
saves
Iron Man.
She saves Iron Man at the beginning
and
and
then
then
comes
shows
back
up
at
at
the
the
end.
end. That's
Yeah.
it. It's like, all right, that was enough.
Yeah.
We got enough of her.
Yep.
We're good. Alrighty, guys, let's move on to our relationship segment.
Let me tell you about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the moon up above and a thing we call love.
Love.
Oh, let's talk about some relationships.
I like
guys.
love. Love is good.
Y'all don't know what this one's gonna
Love
be.
is kind.
We don't.
It's a good one.
Okay, tell us. We don't ever know anymore. You keep them secret lately.
I do because hey, look, anytime y'all have an idea, throw it out there. I'm
Oh, I
willing.
know.
Even our audience. If our
Yeah.
audience, if
Yes.
y'all have an idea, throw it out
Jacob,
there.
you just commented. You got an idea?
He's listening.
Is he got one for us?
No,
Well, we're not going to use it this week.
we can't. It's a little. So it's a little late to use it this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I don't. The lower third says a long lost friend.
Long lost friend.
So what I want to talk about is maybe someone that you remember from a long time ago.
Yeah.
That either you don't know where they went in life, you've not caught up with them. It could be somebody that you do know and maybe only see them every once in a while,
Yeah.
but not as close as you used to be. Or someone that you only remember them from a specific point in your life, and now they've just vanished. You have no idea where they're at.
Up
Maybe
and
they're
vanished
dead.
like a fart in the wind.
Nope.
Man.
That's one of my favorite lines from Shawshank. I love when
It
he gets
is.
pissed off. He's like, he's just up and vanished like a fart in the wind.
And the way he says it, he
Yes.
delivers it beautifully. But yeah, let's talk about it. Do you have someone you remember from back in the day, a long lost friend?
All of them.
All of them.
Except for you guys.
You're never
Aw.
really gone.
Yeah? Yeah.
Brian.
No, it's funny, actually.
Brian's my long lost friend. I haven't seen. We haven't been over to his house in 4 weeks.
It's been a while.
I
3 or
think
4.
Last week we were at mine, and the week before we weren't there. So yeah, it's. I don't know.
It's been a while.
Brian's
been a
He's one of my long
long
lost friends,
time
but
He abandoned us.
Without
no,
you,
I had
my friend.
like my neighbor growing up was my best friend through pretty much like elementary and middle school, and we had like one night where we did something stupid and got in a lot of trouble, and after that we like never hung out again,
Wow.
and
It's his fault.
that was my fault, and literally, like, yeah, I have not. I think I found
been
him on Facebook like a long time ago, and sent him a message and was just like, "Hey, man, I just was looking around for people I
Oh,
knew
wow,
on Facebook,"
really?
and he responded, but it was like, "How's it been going?" And what he was. I mean, he was married and had kids and all this stuff, and
Oh wow, that's
I was like,
kinda
"That's cool." And then,
Yeah.
but then after that, like one message, we never
And you don't need
chatted
to.
anymore.
That
but
was
it
kind of
like,
the closure you needed.
Yeah.
I've kind of had, yeah, because I mean, there's been a few. I know like kids from our street, like Brandon Milburn,
Patrick.
Patrick. Actually, it's funny because me and him have been friends on Facebook for a long time, and
Oh,
then,
wow.
but his sister Tia popped up, and I was like, oh, I remember Tia, so I sent her a friend request, and then nothing ever came of it for a long time. Like she never accepted. And then out of the blue, like several months ago, like it'd probably been a year since I even sent the request, and I'd even forgotten. She sent me a message like, "Hey, I feel like I know you, but I'm not sure who is this." So then I was like, we grew up on Brackenbury, and then we actually did chat back and forth a little bit about like just where we were in our lives. So that was kind of cool.
That is cool.
And then the other one specifically I remember because a similar situation happened was there was this kid named Justin I hung out with in elementary school a lot because I went to Watson Lane, and me and Brandon didn't go to the same school together until high school, so I had to make my own friends in school.
That's right. He came home though.
Yeah, I
He
always
came home
always
where
came
the real
home.
friend was.
But my friend Justin from elementary school was basically my best friend at school. Like I did everything with him for like we were in the same grade together from I think like second grade on. And then after elementary school, it just like we went to different middle schools, different high schools. Never talked to him again. And this was when we were in college. But then out of the blue in college, I get a message on Facebook from him like, "Hey man, like it's been
No
a long
way.
time." Yeah. And so then we kind of caught up. I think we talked about Xbox and Halo and Gears of War because those were big back then. So yeah, it was just kind of, those are just instances where it is kind of neat when you do reconnect with somebody like that. And no, you may not strike up a friendship. Like, it's not like I went and hung out with him again, or I've gone and hung out with any of the other people.
It's cool
but
to just see where people have like ventured off to,
and to know people remember you. Like,
right.
you were just as important in their life as they were to you at that time.
Yeah. Well, and we have actually, that has been a topic of discussion on the show before. But it's funny because if Jacob is listening, he would know quite a few of the people that from elementary school. In fact, it was our most recent lake trip where we were kind of talking about some different people that one has since sadly passed away, and but even then other people that he's caught up with on Facebook or he'll see from time to time, or even teachers and faculty that he remembers and is friends with on Facebook. I mean, if there's one mind-blowing thing in breakthrough that social media has done for all of its ills, it is that crazy part of not needing to wait until your 50-year reunion or something to see somebody from yesteryear. It's like, no, you can literally pop up, see them on Facebook, and if you had even some similar circles, there's, that 6 degrees of connection that you can immediately link up with and say, oh, wow, this is what they're up to. So, yeah, absolutely. All of the people you mentioned from our street growing up, tons of kids from elementary school. One particular that I remember we were really close because we actually, we were, one of my first friends in middle school was Ron Wall.
Oh, yeah.
And it's interesting because it's like I became friends with him in 6th grade, and we kind of stayed friends throughout middle school. And then randomly it was like we parted ways at the end of middle school, and I don't think either one of us knew we were going to go to Butler, show up, and boom, it was like freshman year. You're new in a new huge high school. You're kind of scary. It's like you see someone it's like boom, you latch on. And at that time it was like same thing. It was like same grade, same school, but didn't have any of the same classes. Ron was in like 2 of my classes, I think freshman year. I'm like, all right, well then you just gravitate towards somebody and it was just cool because we always had like a good friendship, but it just, and then come to find out, like I started bowling my sophomore year. And he was a big bowler, and I didn't know that. And he was actually in the same league up at Dixie Bowl with us. And so it was kind of cool that even on the weekends I got to see him and hang out with him. And we just kind of went our separate ways. And I see him pop up on Facebook every once in a while. Didn't really keep in touch much afterward, but I'm sure he's doing well. Sure he's doing okay. That was one friend that I'm like, oh, I definitely remember like times from. Yeah. I mean, hell. I bring him up on the show all the time, and I was even in his wedding. But Logan, good buddy. I don't know if he ever catches the show. If he's listening, shout out. But he's married, got kids. He has their own life going on, and it's like it's busy. I understand that, but heck, I haven't actually talked and hung out with Logan in quite some time, and that's how it is. Like life picks up and gets busy. I wouldn't consider him a long lost friend. He's kind of one of those. It's like.
Connect.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him, and it would be like we never even stopped talking.
Yeah,
I mean that's just how it is. So I mean, those are your truly like you're grateful to have like best friendships, where it's like no time has passed at all. But there are truly those people that I mean I could pop open my. I'm sure Jacob can attest to this. Any of the yearbooks from elementary school, and I'll see people, and I'm like, oh man, wonder where she long lost loves from back in the day.
You Facebook stalk them.
Ashley Matthews, Tisha Hennon.
He's a name drop. They're all gonna be like, man, they're gonna be.
Those are my first
terrified.
kisses.
Like anybody single.
So it's like, hey, but definitely, it's cool to go to. If there's one thing about that's, I mean, I guess you could say it's positive or creepy about social media.
It's like you could stalk all the people you had crushes on in school.
Well, it's funny you mentioned like the high school like reunion. I'm wondering if Facebook has like, I wonder if that's ruined high school reunions.
Those people still have them.
Actually, I know, but I'm just like, I wonder how many people are just like we talk every week on Facebook. Why would I go to the reunion?
That's the reason why it has become irrelevant because the whole reason you even had a reunion was to reunite with people
Right.
that you hadn't
seen.
seen
But
in
now
years.
you can do that every day.
But after
Yeah.
the day that you graduated, it's like I see you in my news feed all the time. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're doing.
Right.
Oh, I want to mute you. Block.
Yeah.
It's like you
It's like,
get
I can't mute you at a high school reunion.
It really
I haven't
be-
been to any of ours, but
I haven't either.
They only had
always-
one organized one, and even it was
Yeah.
just like a lackluster. Like,
Yeah.
would y'all want to do this? Maybe we do this.
I think most of the time they just get a bunch of people to go out drinking, and I'm just like, are we still in high school? Like, I mean,
Did we ever really grow up?
it's like, well, the ones that still get together, I guess,
Yeah.
maybe not.
My
But
sister, actually, she had a funny one. She said that she was in a group that was like old Valley High School graduates.
Yeah.
And literally their class president, she said she's just like a ditz. She was like, she went on there and tried to, she was like, we should do something for like it was like the 30th or 30, I forget how many
Oh,
years
wow.
she's been out. I might have just really aged her. But it was like a big number. And she said it was so random.
well, our 20 years is like,
Dang, it
My
might-
20
it-
years was 2 years ago. I almost went. I thought about it.
She
But-
actually, I think she's on more to yours. It may be like the 25th year then for her. I don't know.
I graduated in 01, so.
Because she's a little bit old. I think she's like she was 99, I think. So maybe a few years. But she may be on the, it may have been the 25th. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
I say 28 would be 20 years for us.
Yeah.
So
Damn. That's crazy.
it's not that far. I mean, we're 23, but it's still not that
Right.
far off.
But the fact that we had our 10 year, I
Yeah.
just remember, heck, even last year, it was my 10 year from college. That
Yeah.
that weirded me out. I
That's
was like,
weird.
I've been out of college 10 years. That was crazy. But no, like she said their high school president reached out to this group and was like, hey guys, I think we should get together, do something really fun. I've got a couple options. We could either go to this place and like rent out the patio, or we can do a cruise. It was just like, wait,
On the Bella Louisville? Like where?
no, like a cruise on a
ship?
cruise ship. And I'm like, what?
we're going to shell out a bunch of money to have a reunion on
Yeah.
a cruise?
Either a patio,
$2,000 a person.
Yeah, exactly. Either a patio at some probably hole in the wall restaurant that costs like $200 to rent the room, or like a $2,000 cruise.
Yeah. We're just going to rent out the whole cruise ship.
She was like,
For like
yeah.
how long? Like we're just gonna do this for a couple hours? Like we're gonna have a whole like week long cruise with the people
going
from
to
Butler?
to go to the DR together.
That's right.
It's like, I'm sorry, the
we're
only-
gonna go tour Cuba.
The only people from Butler I'm willing to spend a week with are the people. Exactly. But it's like I'm not spending a week long with.
Hell no.
It's like the people I care about most from Butler I still see.
Well, and that was the biggest revelation. After you graduate high school, even with social media, it's like, okay, cool, I'm going to get updates from here and there
Yeah.
from people that I want to still keep in touch with, or I'm interested to see how their life's going. But if I really want to see or talk to you, I'm going to make it a point to reach out or make you a part of my life, and vice versa.
There's somebody
You know,
out there that's just got
Hey,
crushed.
there's
like,
people-
Brandon doesn't like me.
There's people that I would
it's like
love
he
to
hasn't
just
talked to me in 5
Yeah.
years. He hates me.
It's like I just want to send some random, person from school a message and be like, "Hey, you want to go on a cruise?
Yeah.
Like, let's get
Well,
back together. Let's
and
go
it
on a
was-
cruise."
It's funny because she said after she came up with that idea, she's like, everybody just like stopped commenting
Yeah.
because they were like,
Crickets.
what is this?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
this doesn't make any sense. Like, what? Yeah. It was like, so yeah, my sister was like,
go down to the,
Like
the
she married a
Caribbean.
lawyer.
yeah, I don't think, well, I think she was like, that's the other weird thing is like I think she was already married and divorced. Like
Oh,
that's
wow.
the weird thing is when you've seen people get
She made
married,
money in the divorce.
either have kids or get married and like get divorced, and like you see it and you're
Yeah.
like, man, I remember when they were like happy and in love, and like it's so bizarre.
Wow. Yeah.
See
So
some
weird.
people and they get divorced and you're like, I knew that was gonna happen.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. No
not
doubt.
to be it's what Jacob said. Some of them have not aged well, so
I like the second part.
they are not cheese or wine. They might be cheese, just not well.
Yeah.
It's like that moldy, like
Yeah.
bumpy
Yeah.
purple cheese that's all nasty.
Smelly.
It's like,
Ugh,
yeah,
gross, rotten.
feet
but
cheese.
Yeah.
That cheese that smells like
foot
feet.
fungus.
bubbling up in the sun.
Oh,
Gross, nasty
God.
cheese.
Like Toxic Avenger cheese.
Not all of them are still with us. I mean, we've had
Yeah.
Yeah.
classmates that have passed. Sadly,
Yeah. Sad tragedies, some drug related, some just tragic
It's
incidents.
like, some are sad, some just the drugs.
Yeah. It's hard.
It's like some of them had happy deaths.
You know.
But no,
Yeah.
I agree. It's like that's another thing is when there's some people you look at and admire, and you're just like you look back on them and you're seeing them on social media, and you're like, ugh,
Yeah.
they didn't turn out right. They made some bad choices.
Some of them
afterward.
work for your vet clinic. Brandon knows.
You know, I'm not name dropping.
I'm not name
people.
dropping it.
That
I'm
was
just saying.
close enough.
Some of them work
That's-
for your
yes.
vet clinic.
That was enough to go on.
That's pretty easily. You could easily pinpoint who that is.
Well, you got to figure out which vet clinic that you go to. I mean,
It's
you know.
pretty easy. There's only
That's
so
fine.
if
many.
that person's watching, they definitely know.
Oh
which
yeah,
one
no,
he goes
I mean
to.
that they know, sure.
Yeah.
I didn't much. I tried to hide it from them. Most people, it was
like
well
that
enough. I
certain
wanted
vet
people
clinic,
to know.
and their name starts with an A and ends with an S. And
No,
it's like,
Don't say it.
I don't even know who it is.
No, I know
Was
you
that
don't.
close?
I know you
Oh.
don't. I thought Keith was about to.
oh no.
All I know is, look, you could go on Facebook and you can look them up and say, all right, yeah, I've got my own opinion about what happened with them in their life, but most others, it's like, and then there's others who probably have the same opinion of me.
Oh yeah.
It's like they look at you and they're like,
I mean,
man,
like,
what did he turn out to be?
He didn't do crap.
It's like, what was he doing?
What a loser.
This is not related at all. But I looked up a dude on Facebook a couple weeks ago trying to like I was doing the same thing. I went through a yearbook and was just looking at people. And I couldn't think of this dude's name. I finally remembered it. Looked this guy up on Facebook and started like reading about him and I was like, dang, I didn't know he went to college, and dude was working at a accounting firm in like Tennessee or something, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. I started looking at pictures of his family. He's got a beautiful family. Like, that's great, man, because that guy, I just didn't think he was ever gonna
amount to nothing.
No, so I finally scrolled through and get to like a really clear picture of the guy, and I'm like, that's not him at all. I was stalking the wrong
person.
guy.
That's hilarious.
It's like, oh, the
It
guy I'm
was.
looking
I
for is
was
probably.
Dude, I was like 15 minutes deep into this guy's profile, and I was like, man, that's great.
And then
Because
you're
I
getting-
really thought this guy was going nowhere. And then
He's sitting in a jail cell somewhere, and you're sitting
Yep.
here like, man, that guy did great with his life.
Yep.
yeah, it was a totally different
It's like,
guy. I was
oh.
like, dude, he's aged different. Like,
oh,
he looks
no.
different.
He is a
And
deadbeat.
I was like, no, that
still.
is not the same guy.
It's like,
Yeah.
no,
Well, it
man,
was
that
great.
dude died 10 years ago from a drug overdose.
I don't know what movie I was downstairs watching late one night, and I'm Facebooking at the same time. I'm just like, that's not him.
That's
No,
not him.
that's a different guy.
Nope.
It was great.
Good times, though. Good times.
Oh, yeah.
Long lost friends. You can reconnect now with the beauty of technology.
Yep.
And some you don't want to reconnect with at all. You just want to move on with your life and say, I didn't know you. But, you know, that's the beauty of it. Yep.
Keith, you okay, buddy?
Yeah.
Keith, you okay?
Alrighty, guys.
Got little
That's
sniffles over there. He's got the
wait,
Peoria.
I would
Or whatever
say
it's called.
The
The
new
Priola, something like that.
Priola.
Priola.
The areola.
new
No, it's
COVID.
Perola.
Perola.
P-I-R.
It sounds like a soap.
Yeah, Perola.
It's like, do you use Perola? Because your hands smell good.
Perola.
That's how they hook you.
Yeah,
Hey, it could be deadly.
that's right.
Yeah. Yep. Can't have the common cold anymore. Got to have COVID. That's what it is.
Oh, there it is.
No.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it. Watch out out there, guys. Watch out. You know what else to watch out for? All of our social media accounts, because you don't want us to be a long lost friend. That's right.
Oh, I
right
like
there at the
that.
bottom of your screen. Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweet, Red Moon Pics, and search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube and Rumble. Like, share, subscribe. We appreciate all the love that you can give us.
Yeah.
And there is that old-fashioned way of reaching out to us. Keith, you do it the best every week.
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Just beautiful. Gosh.
Even sick, he's able to do it.
Caught my throat there for a second,
Yeah.
but I was able
it's
to
okay,
recover.
though.
You recovered.
I was able to recover.
Yeah, you did.
He's going to... Don't
It's
hurt
like you
yourself.
ever have like someone else has like stuff in their throat, and then you want to clear your throat.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That happened just now.
Yep.
Like
it's
I was
like
just
a yawn. You're just like,
I didn't even
"Ah,
need
get it
to,
out."
but I
Yeah.
needed to for him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard that before. Yeah, when somebody's
That's a social
speaking,
experiment.
and
Yeah.
you're just like, come on, clear your throat. Clear your
Oh, they got like
please.
that-
Come on, please.
Come
Like-
on, Robert
like when they
Kennedy.
like-
clear your throat for God's sakes. It's so sad that it's true.
when it's so bad that it sounds like two tracks running at the same, like it's
Yeah.
like he's like overlaps.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm like, that's bad. It's like it sounds like there's two of you talking at the same time.
It's poison. It's killing everybody.
It's like people would be cruel. I'm like, look, he's got to have gotten jokes about it.
Oh,
before.
yeah.
Come on, man. He's
Heck
used
yeah.
to it by now.
I'd vote for him over Biden. So
any day of the week.
yeah.
All right. I mean, I was going to say, there's a difference between speaking weird and just being a corpse. Not speaking at all.
Biden doesn't even speak English
That's
anymore.
at least what Kennedy says makes sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true. Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Thank you all so much for joining us.
no, it's not.
I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host.
Vanilla Steam.
Oh, he said it. Oh, he can't do it. Is he going to make it?
Oh, come on.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.